Sarvebhyo Namo Namaha. Namaskar. This is the final and last plenary session of this Dharma Dhamma conference. The session is graced by Professor Alkesh Chaturvedi as a chair. Professor Alkesh Chaturvedi is a famous scholar of history and present registrar of Sanchi University of Buddhist-Indic Studies. Our other speakers are Professor Chirapad Pradambvidya, Head of the Department, Buddhist Studies, Silpakon University, Thailand. Professor Saraswati Mutshudi, Professor and Head of the Department, Department of Pali, University of Calcutta, India, and Vice President, Mahabodhi Society of India, and Secretary of ISBS. Professor Dilip K. Mohanta, Professor, Department of Philosophy, University of Calcutta. Professor Ramnath Jha, School of Sanskrit and Indic Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, India. Professor Godavarish Mishra, Professor and Dean, School of Buddhist Studies, School of Comparative Religion, Nalanda University, India. I, Dr. Amit Kumar Tamrakar, on Sanchi University of Buddhist-Indic Studies, wholeheartedly welcome our respected chair and distinguished speakers. Before starting this session, we would like to play a short documentary on the Ekatam project related to Sri Shankaracharya ji. This project is executed by the government of Madhya Pradesh. I may request our beloved Professor Yajneshwar S. Sastri sir to please come up on the stage and brief about this project. Sir, please.
Good morning to all of you. Government of Madhya Pradesh, especially Department of Culture, has established Acharya Shankara Sanskritika Ekatam Trust. I am one of the advisors. It is a brainchild of Honorable Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Shivraj Singh Chauhan ji. The main aim is to propagate oneness of all, the Advaita. We are all one. Essentially, spiritually, we are all one. That should be that should be propagated in every corner of the world. It is the aim of the Chief Minister. The first one, there are three projects. It is the 500 crore projects at present. First, 108 feet Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya was initiated to Advaita Sannyasa in Omkareshwar. Therefore, 108 feet Ashtadhatu Murti statue will be unveiled in end of the August. Secondly, International Museum exhibiting life, works and achievement of the Shankaracharya, and exhibiting there is a Sri Vidya exhibition gallery. The Shakti Upasana, the Sri Chakra Upasana is related by Acharya Shankara. That will be exhibited. I am supplying the academic contents for all these things. Thirdly, International Institute of Vedanta. That is 4 schools in the name of 4 disciples, and a library, auditorium, and then Gurukula will be established in Omkareshwar. It is one of the the book is information you will get from this handbook. Ekatam Dhamma in Omkareshwar, that is the center of oneness, will be established in Omkareshwar. The glimpse of that you can see in the movie about Shankara. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. to brief about this project. Dear audience, there is a book available on your tables, on your dais. This book is supplied and presented here by our respected CM sir. So this is a dream project of government of Madhya Pradesh. So you can go through this book and get the information about this project. Thank you. Now I request our respected chair to continue the session. Over to you, sir. Before starting the session, I request our IT team to please play the movie related to Ekatam project.
न मे द्वेषरागौ न मे लोभमोहौ मदो नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्
The infinite cosmos of Bharatiya Sanskriti is filled with shining stars and constellations, the brightest of which appeared centuries ago in the small village of Kaladi in Kerala. Shankar, a child who set off on a journey to Omkareshwar, treading 2,000 miles of wilderness and extremities to meet his guru, Govind Bhagavad-Pad, at the age of just 8. Initiated by his guru Shankar, now known as Shankar Bhagavad-Pad, embarked on a Digvijay Yatra, a grand tour of the land of Bharat. He went on to establish the 4 great mats in all the 4 corners of Bharat and revived ancient temples along his way. The worship of Panchadevta and the Dashnami sannyasi tradition was initiated by Shankar, breathing a new life into the withering Sanatan Dharma Parampara. Shankar Bhagavad-Pad was the most exceptional cultural unifier and exponent of Advaita Vedanta that Bharat has ever seen. He united India through a singular cultural thread and came to be revered as Adi Guru. Today, a new flame of his Advaita Vedanta is being reignited in Omkareshwar, the Gyan Bhumi of this great soul.
अद्वैत वेदांत जन जन तक पहुंचे और आम आदमी भी उससे समझ पाए, जनमानस उससे प्रेरणा ले पाए। इसलिए हमने फैसला किया, सरकार ने फैसला किया कि जहां आदि गुरु शंकराचार्य जी को गुरु मिले और जहां से उन्होंने प्रयाण किया अद्वैत वेदांत के प्रचार का, वहीं आचार्य भगवान की एक मूर्ति लगनी चाहिए।
A magnanimous 108 feet tall statue of oneness of Adi Guru Shankaracharya in his child form will be consecrated to enlighten the whole world with Vedanta philosophy from Mandhata Parvat.
आप अद्भुत बात देखिए, जैसे इस विचार का प्रकटीकरण मैंने किया संतों के सामने की, अपूर्व उत्साह की लहर फैल गई। सारे श्रेष्ठ संतों ने कहा कि निश्चित तौर पर यह करना चाहिए, हम साथ हैं।
In the true spirit of Advaita, the great saints of Bharatvarsh led the Ekatam Yatra, the journey of oneness, collecting metal required for the statue of oneness, soil and water from more than 23,000 Gram Panchayats of Madhya Pradesh. Crores participated, and the grand initiative culminated on 22nd January 2018 as the Ekatam Parva, where the Bhumi Pujan for the statue of oneness was conducted.
मूर्ति के साथ साथ ही विचार आया कि अद्वैत लोक बनाया जाए, और अद्वैत लोक के साथ आदिगुरु शंकराचार्य अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अद्वैत वेदांत संस्थान भी बने, जो केवल मध्य प्रदेश में नहीं, देश में भी और दुनिया में भी एकात्मता के भाव का प्रचार प्रसार करे, ताकि मनुष्य और मनुष्य की दूरियां समाप्त हो जाए। और फिर ये प्रकल्प बना एकात्म धाम का प्रकल्प।
State-of-the-art Shankar Museum, named Advait Lok, an international Advait Vedant Institute, will be established under the guidance of the Sant Samaj of India. In the coming years, modern laser, light, water and sound shows focused on the knowledge of Upanishads will become the center of attraction for thousands of devotees visiting every day. Advait One, spread over 36 hectares, will preserve the natural greenery of Omkareshwar. On the other bank of Narmada, 4 important education centers, Gurukul, Library and Sharda Mandir, will be built under the International Advait Vedant Institute. Today, the world is troubled with wars, conflicts and merciless exploitation of Mother Nature. Under the physical manifestations of these problems lies the fundamental ignorance of duality. Dispelling these differences with the light of Advait Vedant will usher the world into an era of peace and bliss.
मैं आप सबसे अपील करता हूं, अद्भुत एकात्म धाम बनेगा। एकात्म की यात्रा लगातार जारी है, विश्व शांति के लिए, मनुष्य मात्र में भेदभाव की समाप्ति के लिए, धरती को आने वाली पीढ़ियों के लिए रहने लायक बनाने के लिए। आप इस एकात्मता की यात्रा में हमारे साथ शामिल होइए ना। आइए आप भी ओंकारेश्वर एकात्मता धाम पधारिए।
Acharya Shankar's Gyan Bhumi calls upon us. The message of oneness calls upon us. Welcome to Ekatam Dham, a global center for oneness, to universalize the timeless wisdom of Advait Vedanta.
मनोबुद्ध्यहङ्कारचित्तानि नाहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायुः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्।
Thank you, Nitinji. Welcome to all of you in this plenary session. We have 5 eminent scholars who will present their views. Now I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Professor Chirapad Prabandh Vidyaji, HOD, Buddhist Studies, Silpakorn University, Thailand. Sir. Please, sir.
Namaskar. Distinguished scholar, distinguished guests. Thank you very much for inviting me to this august gathering of philosophers, religious leaders, and those who are interested in Dharma and Dhamma. I am from Thailand, where about 90% of the population are Buddhists, and is one of the ancient country in Southeast Asia where the Buddhism has spread to. It is believed that King Ashoka has sent two missionaries to Suvarnabhumi, which is somewhere in the mainland Southeast Asia. Some claim that it is in Myanmar. We also claim that it is in Thailand. Cambodia also claim that it is in Cambodia. So actually it may be somewhere in the mainland Southeast Asia. And in the middle part of Thailand, we found very old ancient inscription in Pali language, the content of which are the Paticcasamuppada in Pali language, and also we found the inscription on the first sermon of the Buddha, the Dhammacakkappavatta Sutta. And we found plenty of the words which is the essence of Buddha teaching. Ye dhamma hetu pappava, te sang hetung tathagato, te sancha yo nirodhoja, evam vadi mahasamano. Which is probably, it is the Paticcasamuppada in brief, that people can remember. And from the point of view of the architecture, we also found the remains of the stupa look very much like the Sanchi stupa. So we believe that that may be the remain of the one of the most ancient monument related to Buddhism found in the central part of Thailand. In the most ancient part of Thailand, the Buddha, the teaching of the Buddha that reached there is a very ancient form or early form of Buddhism, because the Paticcasamuppada is maybe taught there. And Paticcasamuppada is also considered to be the concept of oneness, that means the truth. The truth in the Theravada Buddhism is anatta. Anatta is maybe the concept of no soul, but it begins with the avijja. Because of avijja, sankhara come into existence, and it ended with the concept of vidya, or the reverse form of avijja. If you have the avijja, the rebirth will come into we have no more of existence, no more rebirth. If you can destroy the concept of avijja by vidya, which is called the Nirodha. Nirodha is the final destruction of all the evil. We come to the oneness. And I found that the concept of sunyata or voidness is very close to the teaching of Adi Shankara. In the concept of voidness or sunyata, it is said that the pancha, skandha, or the five aggregate is considered to be void. And there is no, rupa is also void. There is no difference between voidness and rupa, form. Volition also void. Feeling also void. Consciousness also void. There is no concept of sound, taste, body, and all this is very, very similar to the concept found in the Satta. The concept of Shankaracharya composed the Shivoham. Also the negation of all this, because Adi Shankaracharya believed in the Mayavada. He believed that the truth is only Brahman. The world is false because of Maya or Vidya, that everything in the world appears to be true. But the absolute truth should be only Brahman. This is the same as sunyata in Buddhist philosophy. And the final beatitude of sunyata is bodhi. If you realize bodhi, it means that you become the Buddha yourself. It is the same as the concept of Shankaracharya. If you become Brahman, it means that you have realized the supreme truth. So this is my presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to introduce our second keynote speaker, Professor Goda Varisha Misraji. Professor Goda Varisha. Yes, sir. Goda Varisha Misraji is a professor and dean in the School of Buddhist Studies, Philosophy and Comparative Religion at Nalanda University, formerly chairperson of the School of Philosophy and Religious Studies, as well as the professor and head of the Department of Philosophy, University of Madras. He has also served as a member secretary of Indian Council of Philosophical Research, New Delhi. Please, sir.
ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेद विभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्त देहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. Respected chair, esteemed panelists, distinguished audience, and friends, students, and invited guests. I am grateful to India Foundation and Shanchi University for this opportunity, and our BC, Professor Sunayana Singh, for facilitating my presence, participation here, and her inputs in preparing this paper. Friends, I would like to, my paper is based on a statement of Shankara that the loka vyavahara, the whole empirical transaction, is mixed up, a combination of Rita and Anrita. So, what I would like to present today in the name of humanism is illumination of Rita and elimination of Anrita. That humanizing of recovering the reality and recovering the unreality, the impositions. I will try to finish it within 15 minutes, Dr. Singh, so Dr. Chaturvedi, sorry. So, humanism is a Western construct which is based on the ideal of human dignity, ethical living, and a person's right and responsibility to give meaning and shape to his own life and society that he lives in. It stands for building a more human value-centric society through the development of human and other natural values. Though as a concept there is nothing like Eastern and Western about humanism, since human problems are largely similar. Taking the peculiarities of the world views, ethical standards nurtured in and by different societies, this concept has different dimensions in different places, and in that sense we may speak of Eastern humanism being different from Western humanism. So humanism and rationality is the next point that I would like to present before you. The whole ideal of humanism is based on the concept of rationality, which was spoken by Aristotle, who defined human as the rational animal, thus rejecting the possibility of assigning any rationality to any other species other than man. Here comes the dichotomy of treatment in the East and the West, and we find the opposite at times being very true. There are animals like elephants, dogs, and horses who have high level of rationality, which at times human beings do not have, since we legitimize the wrong actions through language. This is the first point I would like to bring before you, where imposition of falsity. I bring Shankara here. Satyanrita mithuni kritya. The Anrita is being taken as Rita. I would like to bring before you a story, a true story from Kerala. How rationality is not only man-centric concept. There was an elephant called Keshavan in the Gurubayur temple of Kerala. Once, in a particular year, in the Brahmotshavam, in the annual festival, he was supposed to put a big stamp in the hole, Deepa Stambha, which Keshavan did not do. He did not obey the orders of the Mahunt to put that stamp inside that hole. And Keshavan was old by then. People did not know, nobody could understand why Keshavan is not obeying the orders of the Mahunt. Then the old Mahunt, that Mahunt's father, who was about more than 80 years old, he was called in. He came and examined the whole thing. He told there is nothing wrong in the elephant. See something in the hole, that pit which has been prepared for putting the stamp. They examined the pit, they went inside and found a 4-year-old child lying unconscious inside there. And as soon as the child was brought out, the Keshavan did not take any time to put back the stamp there. See the amount of rationality in an animal compared to those who has perpetrated 2611 and 911 during our times. So humanism is based on rationality, and rationality is confined to man, is something to be relooked from this dimension. So So I would like to bring before you some more ideas from Indian tradition to show how there has been a lot of such falsities that are superimposed in our tradition by the Europeans, who always felt Asians as the burdens of the white Indians, and as a result we forgot the great tradition, models of humanism on which the societies are built for many thousand years. This is my first submission. Humanism and subjugation. What I have intimately observed in these years, friends, that even though the external subjugation has brought about a lot of changes to our tradition, understanding of the self, there is something which is still not affected, as in my reading of the cultural heritage of this land, that is intellectual India, the cultural philosophical India, which still remains as it used to be, unsubjugated for several millennia. In spite of the onslaughts of the power-hungry imperialists and the designed suppression and machinations to plunder wealth through evil means from the innocent Indians, that the India in the real sense still survives is a matter of great surprise. Before going into the topic of Eastern humanism that has eternal relevance, I would like to bring certain myths Anrita before you, which are to be dispelled, elimination, for understanding the heart of India, the humanism in Indian context. The revisiting history of discordance. One of the major embodiments of humanism is to inject wrong ideas into the psyche of the people and break the unity of a particular land and make them feel distant from each other. To emphasize this idea, I would like to draw your attention to another turn in Indian history that has been strategized by European historians to make Indians believe that northern invaders pushed the original inhabitants of north to south beyond the Vindhya mountains, and this theory that Harappa Mohenjo-daro are the inhabitations of the Dravidians, and they are pushed to the south by the so-called Aryans by their aggression and muscle power, is utter falsehood, Anrita. A lot of research has been done in this direction, and what I would like to add is that the whole division has implication in keeping with the culinary food practices of this country. A few points for consideration, contemplation. The Arya Dravida myth. I don't want to go into all these the technicalities of this problem, but I would like to say that Arya and Dravida are not the words juxtaposing each other. So instead of taking the word Arya from Manusmriti and aligning with the word Dravida, which has been an elusive exercise imposed on Indian historiography that has been designed to show the divisive character of the people of this country, I would like to offer an alternative which to me is a sustainable explanation to be juxtaposed with Dravida, and that has cultural, historical and textual references. So instead of taking the word Arya from Manusmriti, so textual references, and I would like to put it as Gauda Dravida reality. The term which is historically called juxtaposing Dravida is Gauda, and I will take a minute of your time to highlight this aspect. Kalhana in his Rajatarangini gives the description of Pancha Gauda and Pancha Dravida, dividing the geography of this country beyond Vindhyas and before Vindhyas, 5 Dravidian states and 5 Gauda states. He says, Karnatakascha Tailangaha, Dravidaha Rastravasinaha, Gurjaraha Cheti Panchaite, Dravidaha Vindhya Dakshine. And similarly, for Gauda, he says, Saraswataha Kanyakubjaha, Gaudaha Utkala Maithilaha, Pancha Gaudaha iti Kshataha, Vindhasyottara Vasinaha. This is what Gauda and Dravida difference Kalhana makes. Now, there are a number of such references in the Smritis and Puranas which would testify the fact that Gauda and Dravida are the basic geographical divisions of this country and not Arya and Dravida myth launched by them with ulterior motivation. In analyzing further
these two terms I would like to present before you the derivations of the term Gauda and Dravida. The word Gauda is derived from the word Guda, which means jaggery, and the states are called as Gauda where there is prevalent custom of using jaggery in their food items. And now I come to the word Dravida. In my research to derive this word, which is used in Sanskrit literature many times, Shankara uses, Sureshwara uses, Nathaman uses all this. Like the word Dravida, to me, like Ramanuja talks about Dravidacharya, Shankara says that I am a Dravida Shishu. Sureshwara addresses Shankara as Dravida. Evam Gaudehi Dravidairnaha ayam artha prabhasitaha. There are so many references. I would like to say this Dravida, the Dravida word comes from the word Tintrida. Tintrida is Tintrini, which means tamarind. So, my submission here is the Arya does not have a historical or literary reference to be juxtaposed to Dravida, and it is Gauda as seen in Kalhana, and Arya Dravida division is a myth superimposed on the Indian historicity for dividing the people and justifying the imperial attitude of occupying and subjugating our culture. All that has to be, all that the idea is that you occupied long back and we are occupying now, there is nothing wrong about it. The above is my submission to obtain freedom from the publicized falsity as a facet of new humanism, which is intentionally carried out without any historical foundation. So, therefore, the launching of such a myth distanced the southern people from that of northern, and creating one state, creating one state, that is Bharat. We treated each other as different, which is not a fact, and we all know how Acharya Shankara brings back this ideal of oneness in making us feel one by giving back our geography, by creating 4 dhammas at the 4 corners of this country for the preservation and practice of oneness, which is the basic of humanism, Eastern humanism. Invoking a religious holism. With the success of European imposition and wrong interpretation of Arya Dravida myth, the imperialist agenda was to divide the religious ethos. This is another submission I want to make before you, that they wanted to divide the religions, as has been the tradition in the West. So, our so-called religions are not the ways of life, but the views of life. The religions as we practice and understand in India are the citadels of philosophical thinking, and both theory and practice, unlike West, they go together. The Indian philosophies, which included religions, have their roots in the Vedas by acceptance and rejection. Acceptance of rejection of the Vedas, of the latter. Just because Gautama the Buddha opposed certain tenets of the Vedas, I would not like to put him in Nastika basket and go to read Buddhism as absolutely different from Sanatanic Vedic way of mode of thinking and living. Esa Dhammo Sanatano. So, Buddha was not a Buddhist, and his attempt to cleanse tradition, best practices that has crept into the social milieu of the Vedic religiosity of his time, and that there lies Buddha's greatness. Certain differences in the thinking and living, theory and practice, do not make him totally aligned to the culture in which he grew up. Same is the case of Mahavira and all other saints and sages who have given this direction for the people by opening up the doors of liberation to one and all. Guru Nanak, I would not take Guru Nanak as not a Sanatani. He is a Sanatani. There is no great centers of religiosity in our country where Guru Nanak does not have a matha. In Kanchipuram he has 2, in Puri he has 1, and they had seva for the temple. And today, if we say that it is a different tradition than the Sanatana tradition, I have difficulty in accepting this. Each one of them had certain ways to promote humanism, to schooling man to become more human within the format of Sanatanic Vedic religiosity by accepting, sometimes rejecting it. Hence, my submission is that Buddha is a product of the Sanatanic Vedic Upanishadic ethos of religiosity and was armed with his vision to change and purify the tradition to humanize the society from certain influences which he thought worthy of addressing. Shankara, while he trying to do away with Buddha, has taken the model of putting forth his model of Vedic religiosity, which Buddha resented the way of life and view of life. I must be running out of my time. So, invoking unity as a ideal of humanism, this discord that was injected in our social psyche by the European historians and traditions has created several distortions, and we have lost sight of the source that has been branched off in many margas to be adopted by the people as per their requirement and as well as a temperament. Hence, I would like to call upon the ideal of unity in thinking than the differences which has weakened Indians and our cultural ethos, of which humanism plays a vital role. This is my second submission for the new humanism of the new era. Rishi-centrism, also as a model of inclusivism. From the above, I would like to take you to my next submission, which is to celebrate the thinkers and thinking that than getting caught in the nomenclature, a term which is what has happened today, misunderstanding and ununderstanding, have bypassed the understanding self-realization, which is the root of non-direct, immediate, aparoksha jnana, and which has been emphasized by all our seers who have contributed their lot in making this land Bharata, living with the chief objective of realization, attaining the state of realization. Starting from Vedas till today, all the rishis, all of these theories have been doing this.
Sir, please conclude.
Complete, okay? Finish kar deta hu. So invoking Arsa Vidya and Arsa Parampara, instead of the term Hindu and all that is related to Hindu has created so much of problem for us, we know, and therefore I would suggest that we should have a word Arsa instead of Hindu, so that every tradition is Rishi-centric, originated from a Rishi. So I would like to say that even as much as there are Rishis from the Vedas, we had Rishis in unorthodox traditions also. Guru Nanak is a Rishi, Mahavira is a Rishi. So all of these people are Rishi. So this is, hence our tradition and philosophizing and religiosity should be understood as Arsa Vidya, Arsa Parampara and Arsa Dharma, which has its genesis in the seers, Rishis going back to 5,000 years of known history. So, heralding a new era, looking back to Manu, this is my submission, last submission, friends, in my enthusiasm, to suggest certain ways of understanding ourselves, delving into the deeper layers of Eastern humanism for the new era. I would like to suggest that it is high time we should look back to Manu with sympathy and ingenuity to appropriate his ideals which are relevant to us than condemning it, following ill-perceived judgments and conclusions. The whole message was to make us feel that the book has only two important points in its content. One is dividing the society by highlighting how it has dictated suppression of the lower castes and prescribed ill treatment to women. This has given a misunderstanding of the text, a text which is taken to be the handbook of a society for at least 4,000 years. By such narrow understanding, the major thrust of the text is completely lost and its profundity is not understood. We need to exercise caution. I am concluding, Professor Chaturvedi, to understand the merit of the text and nurturing the harmonious society, and this can be done by dispelling the anrita that has concealed the reality of Manu and other Smritis for wrong reasons. So Smriti as a book of universal ethics I am calling for understanding the Smriti in its proper form. So Eastern humanism and Pancha Mahayajna, this is my last submission. How do you practice humanism? We have the Pancha Mahayajna coming in the Sikkhavalli of Taittiriya Upanishad. Down in Manu, the Pancha Mahayajna is the message of Eastern humanism, wherein it is not biocentrism, as the concept note writes, beautifully concept note is written here, but it is geocentrism. In every stone there is a divinity. Prahalada is the paradigm. So I don't know the Bhuta Yajna. Where is the Bhuta Yajna? I wanted to tell some my autobiographical, I wanted to give some information how when I was a student I went around the country and I never stayed in a hotel. I stayed in the houses. Today you don't have houses where you can stay. So that is the state we have come to. So I have quoted Manu. I don't have much time. The conclusion. This is Eastern. So to me humanism is one, and in a real sense there cannot be Eastern humanism different from Western. Here in India, in and through many paths, Dharma has ruled the roost of this civilization and is based on the basic concern for the other. We have to only find out the ways of appropriating good ideals of the past, which is the base, with the value that man should not live in the world of Anrita and strive to realize Rita. And the first step to realization is practicing Dharma based on the ideal that one should not do anything to the other what he should not want to be done to him. Atmanaha pratikulani paresham na samacharit. Conclusion. This is Eastern humanism, friends. This is Indian humanism and this is Arsa humanism, which has shaped the practices and predilections of these people for more than 5,000 years. In a few decades, now especially after independence, the social life of Indians have gone sea change, and we need to work in the direction that we develop culture of humanity by keeping our efforts on to make non-resident Indians as Indians. I say, we have many people in our country, but they are not Indians. They live here, but they are not Indians. Therefore, I told that they are non-resident Indians, not resident. So, no. They are resident non-Indians. They are residents here, but they are not Indians. So, resident non-Indians as Indians, by imbibing the tradition of fellow feeling as enunciated in the Pancha Mahayajna, leading to the realization of oneness that has an eternal time-tested relevance. Thank you for your participation and patience.
Thank you, sir, for sharing such important thoughts. Now, I would like to introduce our third keynote speaker, Professor Dilip K. Mohanta. Professor Dilip K. Mohanta is a professor in the Department of Philosophy at Calcutta University. He is a member Faculty Council Arts, Calcutta University, and a member of RPC, Indian Council of Philosophical Research, New Delhi, since 2015. He was previously Vice Chancellor of the Sanskrit College and University of Kalyani. He is also served as a member of the West Bengal Higher Education Council, Publication Committee, Asiatic Society in Kolkata, University Council of Kaji Nazrul University in Asansol, and Academic Council, Assam University, Head of the Department of Philosophy, Assam University. HOD, Department of Philosophy, University of Calcutta, and Coordinator, UGC DRC Program, University of Calcutta. Sir, please.
Thank you so much, respected chair and respected co-presenters in the dais, and respected my mentor, Professor A.S.R. Bhartji, distinguished philosophers of the dais, friends, ladies and gentlemen. पहले तो किया ना Anyway, we should not be too much mechanical, rather humanistic. Friends, I shall be speaking on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam as an alternative model for New World Order. So far we have heard about the historical aspects, now it's pure philosophical aspect of humanism from Indian side. By Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, I mean all the inhabitants of the increasingly interdependent and interrelated world that includes great cultural, ethnic, racial, local, national, and religious diversity. The inhabitants are necessarily the relatives of one another. It is imperative that the ways to come together as a human family, honoring and respecting the commonly adjustable diversities, have to be worked out relentlessly to ensure global peace and harmony. The whole world is a single nest. Yasmin Vishwam Bhavat Ekam Needam. If we look at both prosperity and peace, we find them interlinked from the perspective of India's material spiritual heritage, which is holistic in nature. It includes both Abhyudaya, the worldly well-being, and Nisrayasa, the spirit of non-attachment. Material ideal of prosperity has a spiritual and holistic efficiency in India, and the efficiency is the means by which the goal of prosperity is realized. Therefore, philosophical attitude is seen as a component of India's soft power. The Western model for approaching peace and prosperity is primarily right-oriented, and as a consequence of this attitude, it becomes competition-oriented. It is primarily guided by 3 P: power, profit, and pleasure. So pleasure is the highest goal. History shows the inadequacy of this approach. In this pluralistic world, the application of holistic and spiritualistic outlook based on values embedded in India's culture may be an alternative paradigm for peace and prosperity. Non-alignment and Panchashila, the twin key concepts of India's foreign policy, are rooted in classical philosophy of India. It speaks of the mandate of a policy of equanimity in one's international stand for maintaining relations. Friends, violence is not the proper way to resolve political conflicts. No hi bereno berani samantiha kudachana. Enmity and violence can never quench enmity and violence, said Buddha. It is to be resolved through dialogue or polylogue, a new concept today, with understanding and empathy. War is opposed to all 3 virtues of human being: spirituality, freedom, and culture. The model based on right and competition, friends, is inadequate for the promotion of peace and prosperity. A kind of reconciliation is necessary. This reconciliation implies the ending of quarrels, conflicts, hostilities through settlements by dialogue and polylogue, and agreements based on material, moral, and spiritual values. The effort to build one world requires a closer understanding among the people of the world and their cultures. One-dimensional and unilateral identity cannot lead to peace, which involves social, ethical, religious, and political elements. Here, the application of this holistic and interdependent outlook is an alternative paradigm for peace and prosperity. People-to-people cultural diplomacy, I think, may work as an additional and alternative way to the monopoly of political diplomacy for international relations and understanding. In view of this, the philosophical ideals of both Buddha and Gandhi are quite relevant today if we can put it on proper context and do not accept nonviolence in the categorical and simplistic sense. In theoretical side, pragmatic idealism of the maxim, let noble thoughts come to us from different directions, anubhadra krautavo yantu vishwataha, as said in the Rig Veda, and in applied side, live and let live is the goal. What I feel about the task of philosophy is that it is not ended with a commentary of life, but to lead the life in the right direction. Indian philosophy does not negate the life and the world, but discovers a new meaning of both. It is historically true that peaceful coexistence of different views and religious ways of life is possible on the basis of the logic of alternation. It does not merely tolerate, but does accept others. This is conducive to peace. If we ignore our multidimensional identity, it invites violence and absence of peace. Today, the choice before us is between living together in peace or dying together in conflict. Nevertheless, the Indian ethos, this counter-violence cannot abolish violence, is important in today's world scenario. As there is nothing nobler than humanity, and war destroys humanity, we cannot in general support war unless it is inevitable as the last option. Every nation, every person should enjoy the right of self-defense. This is the teachings of Indian philosophy. The pan-Indian approach here is duty-oriented and holistic. Even the material achievements are permitted under the thorough scan of moral principles called dharma. Whether it is artha or kama, no matter. Without dharma, neither artha nor kama is considered as a pursuit of life, purushartha. Indian Prime Minister's approach through dialogue to settle Russia-Ukraine war is a form of manifestations of India's spiritual and holistic value-based models of understanding the world problems. We cannot deny that we are living in an atmosphere of fear. Today, the major political world powers are in a race for controlling the world through war. Open competitions for controlling the world badly affects human beings and nature as well. We are indirectly the victim of recent war in Ukraine. In today's world, we witness a predominantly self-centered, egoistic, and consumerist attitude. India's philosophical message is to change the attitude from domination to cooperation, from hatred to love. The spiritualistic and holistic pan-Indian approach is an alternative way for a new order today, world order today. Today, we need to see that religion teaches love and not hatred. We see in the Middle East, the media has a great and positive role to play. One of our duties today is to oppose this blind and orthodox view of religion with open-minded, as emphasized in the Rig Veda. The Rig Vedic teachings of openness is the gateway for all research. Let noble thoughts come to us from different directions, as I said, Anubhadra Kratavo Yantu Vishwataha. As we historically inherit the old practices and thoughts, we should also get a proper blending of fresh knowledge and gift of science with these. For peace and development, we are to be open-ended, to welcome the development of science, philosophy, and culture, and liberate ourselves from one-sided dominance of old creeds and dogmas. Though we inherit the past, we must claim freedom from the bondage in the past. For peace and prosperity, we also need to be cooperative, constructive, and positive in our interactions with the people of other religions and cultures. And simultaneously, we need to be educated how, in spite of differences, we can work for a meeting and commonly shareable ground through dialogue. Once this is achieved, no longer the diversity of religions and cultures will act as a hindrance to worldly peace and progress. A single faith understood as against the faith of others is no longer adequate in the discovery of a full humanity. If you are with me, then you are with me, otherwise you are against me. Either convert or be killed. This message is no longer admissible from Indian perspective. Each of us is invited to encounter at least one believer of a different faith in tolerance and humanity. The Indic tradition of humanism is based on the teachings of Vedas, Upanishads, Buddhist Jaina canonical literature, Japji of Sikhism. The moral teachings of Hinduism is to see God in man. Sila, Samadhi, Brahma Vihara of Buddhism, condensed in compassion. Ahimsa of Jainism in its Anekantavadi Drishti, Seva of Sikhism and respect for others, all are included in the holistic attitude of Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka. We know the Sikhs fought with the Mughals, but there is not a single word is there in the Granth Sahib that any derogatory remark about Islam. This is something very noble in Indian traditions. Buddhism does not negate, does not regard the existence of other religions as an hindrance to worldly progress and peace. The spirit of Buddhism does not have any interest to convert the followers of other religion to Buddhism. Lord Buddha himself taught many varied methods, and they all work harmoniously to help a wide spectrum of different types of people. It is important to respect all traditions, both within Buddhism and outside Buddhism. The form of cosmic humanism is developed by the philosophers like Swami Vivekananda, Rabindranath Tagore, Sri Aurobindo, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, and others. In the Mahabharata it is said, nothing is greater than humanity. No manushat sreshta tarang hi kinchit. Rather, if I declare this holy mystery, there is nothing nobler than humanity. Vivekananda sees God in man. To him, service to humanity is a service to God. Hindus are the most tolerant people in the world. It is based on the Vedic teachings of the truth is one, and it is described in many ways. Ekam sadvipra bahuda badanti. The Gita, chapter 4, sloka number 11, it is said that it also emphasizes on the plurality of the ways of worshipping Godhead. Live and let other live is the old-age message of India to the world. India's foreign policy testifies this as it helped other nations during COVID-19 situation. In Gandhi's thought, Rama stands for fearlessness. The idea of Rama Rajya is the kingdom of justice and love. Gandhi also does not admit all unearthly competitions and advocates the principle of cooperation. What is commonly understood by the word philosophy is also included in Manana in India. Manana in India's conception of darshana. In India, it is called darshana because it emphasizes on seeing the things in the right perspective and as they really stand for. In India, philosophizing is expected to act as a therapy of soul, and so it should not remain confined within the boundary of purely cerebral activity. Gandhi's philosophy of ahimsa, sarvodaya, and trusteeship are the key ideals which are waiting for application for the survival of humanity. In spite of material abundance and intellectual power, we are not happy. Our crisis is not just an economic or intellectual one. It is a wider one, covering our moral and spiritual domain of existence. Gandhi's Sarvodaya and Pandit Deen Dayal's Upadhyay's Antodaya are complementary ideals. India's time-tested ideal of the whole world is one nest, Yasmin Vishwam Bhavet Ekam Needam, and the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam constitute an alternative world order which shows some hopes for humanity to survive with dignity. Alamati Vistarena. Thank you all for your patience. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for sharing such important thoughts. Now I would like to call our fourth speaker, Professor Ramnath Jha, sir. Professor Ramnath Jha, sir, is an eminent scholar of Sanskrit of Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi.
इदम नमः ऋषिभ्यः पूर्वजेभ्यः पूर्वेभ्यः पत्कृतभ्यः। उस ऋषि परंपरा को नमस्कार है जो आज हमें ये अवसर प्रदान कर रहा है कि हम सभी विषयों पे बात कर रहे हैं। Respected chair, speakers on the dais and audience, scholars, researchers of the dais. So much has been said. Let me start with the term Hindu. Who is Hindu? Who coined this term? So, if you go through the writings of Vasudev Saran Agrawal, he has given details, and he says that for the first time in 6th century BC, an Iranian king coined this term Hindvas. And this Hindvas means the other side of Sindhu river, a geographical area, and also inhabitants of that area. That is known as Hindu. So still these terms are being used from those countries. Hindu has so many meanings, but one important meaning is that those are Hindus who belongs to this geographical land and also who believes in debate tradition. You know, so many scholars from Semitic sides say that those are Hindus who believes in debate tradition, because Semitic culture is not accepting debate tradition. So whether it is now Hindu or Buddhist or Jain or Sikh or any other sampradaya, all have been named as Hindu from other side. Other issue is that those are Hindus who accept in rebirth, accept in nature-centric philosophy, accept in accept karma theory, accept the concept of moksha, accept to give respect to other dharma, other views, ideas, and also to accept other ideas. So, group of those people who believe in this view, that is known as Hindu. So, this term was coined by others, though in our own tradition as well. There are so many definitions of Hindu, but we have coined or we have defined this term after the uses from other sides. The second issue I want to submit, that now we are using humanism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, other ism. But what is the actual meaning of ism? What is the intention to use this term, ism? So it is totally based on Christianity, Christian view. Have you heard about Christianism? Why? They used sometimes Mohammedanism, but when resistance came from Islam, then now they can't dare to use this term Mohammedanism. Now it is Islam. Still Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, the actual meaning of ism is that which we disprove of. At these issues or these thoughts will go to the state of end at a certain time. With this concept, this ism was used, and we are using this term with very positive sense. We have used this term humanism in very positive sense. But the intention of this, the coining of this term is not so much positive. So this is to be understood properly. Now, we have been explaining all these things, and you know our tradition, particularly regarding feminism, nobody has explained. One madam on the philosophy of Jainism, she has made some remarks, presented a paper. But what is the view of Ved regarding feminism? That is very important, because humanity cannot go ahead without understanding the concept of feminism from Vedic perspective. So our tradition says the ultimate truth is one. In the first chapter of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, sa ekaki naivre me sa dvidha apatiyat, patnat pati patnat patni cha. One manifested itself into two realities, that is male principle and female principle. And giving example, ardha brigalmiv, just like a seed of pulse, where internally there are two parts, externally one unit. So two part अर्ध ब्रिगल दाल के दाने की तरह, अंदर में दो हिस्से, बाहर में एक. दो हिस्सा जो है, that are complementary to each other, no superiority, no inferiority. This complementing nature of male principle and female principle is the philosophy of feminism in India, in Bharat. And so we see that Ved is the only literature, where 7 Rishikas have played important role, 27 Rishikas. No foundational text of any other cultural tradition where this kind of role played by women in foundational text. 27 Rishika, Apala, Lopamudra, now we have Bhagambrani Sukta, Vak Sukta in Rigved. So Ved is nothing but the collection of the ideas from all corners of humanity. All corners of humanity. Sometimes it is said that it was developed by Britishers, again coined a new term, Brahmanism. This is Brahmanical tradition. But if you go through in original text, you will find that this is the only text where all have played equal role to develop this text. The example of Jabali Rishi. Jabala, now, as per our constitution, she was from SC category. Her son became Rishi, Jabali from Jabalpur. And Aitreya Brahman, a foundational text in Vedic tradition. Mahidhar Aitreya, Mahidhar was the son of Itra. Itra is also supposed to be from SC category. Her son became Rishi, and he gave the nomenclature of that foundational text as Aitreya Brahman, Aitreya from Itra. So many rishis from Rigved, they belong to they belong to SC category. So where is this Brahmanical tradition? Vyas was not Brahmin, Valmiki was not Brahmin. So this is the only tradition I can claim that this tradition has been developed by all corners of India, all corners of this subcontinent. No other tradition can match. So this is Sanatan. This is the reason why it is Sanatan. Sanatan means Anaditvad Chiram Prabritah iti Sanatana. That is since the time immemorial. Why? Because the oldest text of this globe, Rigved itself says what I have spoken, the first line, Idam Namah Rishibhya Purvajebhya Purvebhya Patkritbhya, that we have been guided by our previous rishis. There is a tradition of rishis. Purve bhi Rishibhi Nutanairut from Agni Sukta, the first Sukta of Rigved. So this is Anadi, no time, no certain date. And it will remain forever because this is the result of accumulated wisdom. So this is also very important because the motto of Sanchi University is Es Dharma Sanatana. So this is very important thing. Then our Professor Misrji has already explained that this tradition is not a theoretical tradition. This tradition is based on realization. By realization of truth. And so time and again, he also quoted, Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Yasgyatva Moksha Se Subhat. Jnanam Te Ham Sabhi Jnanam Idam Vakshamya Sesatah. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastha Sanjatendriya. Everywhere Jnana Vijnana. Adi Shankaracharya, commenting upon these slokas, say that Shastracharyadbhi Padarthanam Avabodha Jnanam. If you understand something with the help of Acharya, with the help of text, and you have a theoretical understanding, that is Jnana, Tadanubhava Vijnanam. And when you realize that state, that theory in practice, then that becomes Vijnana. So tradition to be understood in theoretical way and also to realize it practically. This tradition is covering both of the aspects. So we have Rishi Darshanath, who realized directly at all level, at gross level, at subtle level, at causal level, and at highest level, at all level. So now, when we experience this pluralistic reality with our senses, then it is plural. But when we reach the subtle state, then everything is related with each other. Everything is depending upon each other. Now, it is quantum physics that has already proved, it is Bell's theorem, where it has been experimented that an electron in this galaxy is directly related to the electrons in other galaxy. This kind of interrelationship is in subtle state of reality. But even interrelation and interdependence, Bhagavan Krishna says in Gita, Mai sarva midam protam sutre manigana iva. I am the unifying principle. I am the unifying and underlying principle of the whole cosmos. So there is something that is unifier. So we have to move from this related universe, because relation requires two relata. Relation requires two relata. एक संबंध को संबंध द्विष्ठ, संबंध दो संबंधी के बिना नहीं हो सकता. And wherever these three reality, there may be again clash of civilization, there may be clash of understanding. So we have to understand the unifier, and then we move to the causal state. Causal state means there is a singular energy, ajam ekam lohit shukla krishnam. Generally we have a part of Durga Sapsati. But there we can understand what is the statement of Bhagavati Durga. Ekai vaham jagatyatro dutiya kamama pada. I am the singular reality. I manifest itself into different forms. The same in Devyatharva seeds. There are 5 Atharva seeds. One is Devyatharva seeds. So Devta went to Bhagavati, who are you? She says, I am Brahma, aham Brahma Swarupini, mattah prakriti purushatmakam jagat sunyam cha. I am everything. So, this is India, where a female principle can claim that I am the ultimate truth. Nowhere. So this is the singularity principle. You go to Rigved in Bhagambrani Sukta. Ambrini is a very little child. And someone asks, who are you? She says, I am the ultimate truth. I create everything. So in India, you can accept ultimate truth as male principle. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am the ultimate truth. But in Bhagambrani Sukta, in Sri Devyatharva seeds, in other texts, female principle claims, I am the ultimate truth. And sometimes Brahman is neuter gender. So male, female, neuter, anyone can claim I am the highest truth. This is our tradition. This is humanity. So the third state is causal state. Causal state means state of singularity of Shakti. So now when we are based on our sense organ experience, then there is a plurality. Our behavior is based on plurality. Yagyavalkya in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, Yatra tu dvaitami bhavati tatra itaram pasyati. When your knowledge is based on your sense organ, then plurality is reality. Dvaitami bhavati tatra itaram pasyati itaram vijanati. Our behavior is based on that understanding. So there is a rag, dvesh, this, that. what we are perceiving in our day-to-day life. But when we move to the subtle state of reality, then we are related, then we are depending upon each other. And this gives a new sense to protect trees, to protect river, to protect all natural things, because all are interrelated. But when we move to the causal state, then everything becomes a singular energy. Singular energy, no duality, no interdependence, oneness in the state of functional energy. And the substratum of this functional energy is ultimate consciousness, the ultimate truth as consciousness. So when this energy becomes functional, that consciousness becomes sagun sakar. When this energy becomes non-functional, that is the state of nirgun and nirakar. So nirgun becomes sagun with the functionality of energy, and again that becomes nirgun with the non-functionality of energy.
Sir,
this affects our, just 1 or 2 minutes, this affects our behavior. Before 20 years, before 30 years, we used to cut trees, we used to do everything as per our own desire, but now it's law, you cannot cut a tree. Why? Because this is the development, we have reached the state of subtle reality. Science has proved that at the state of subtle reality, everything is related with each other. So if you harm someone, you will be harmed. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Parasparam bhavayantah shreyah param avapsyatha. There is an interrelation. We are depending upon each other. We are depending upon nature. Nature is depending upon us. So by taking care of each other, we can reach the state of happiness. We can reach the state of Shrey. And one more slok Krishna says, Evam pravartitam chakram. There is a cyclic process between human being and nature. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartiyati hiya. Whosoever doesn't follow this cyclic process of nature, aghayuh indriya ramah mogham partha sajivati. So that is actually papi. पापी शब्द इसके लिए प्रयोग किया है कि जो प्रकृति की सुरक्षा नहीं करता और प्रकृति के द्वारा अपनी भी सुरक्षा नहीं करता, तो वो पापी है। मोघम पार्थ सजीवती, वो तो जीता ही बेकार में है, क्योंकि वो केवल समाज को नुकसान पहुंचाने में लगा है। 1 minute, sir, 1 minute more. One self quote I am giving from Einstein. Someone asked Einstein, do you believe in God? He said, yes. What type of God? Einstein replied, a God that is not angry, a God that do not direct us from outside this universe. I believe in that God which controls us from within. This is the difference between Indian Ishwar and a Semitic God. God is always outside. God has nothing to do with this creation. If you follow God's command, then He is happy. If you are ignoring His command, He will punish you. He becomes angry. But in Vedic tradition, in Indian tradition, there is no difference between Ishwar, Brahma and this sansar. Ishwara sarva bhutanam hridde sed junatishthati. Ishwar is that which manifests itself in this pluralistic reality. And in Upanishad, there are 5 vakya, foundational vakya. One is that manifests yatoba imani bhutani jayante. Yen jatani jivanti. God is that which sustains. Yato यतो वा इमानि भूतानि जायन्ते येन जातानि जीवन्ते यत् प्रियन्ते अभिसंविशन्ति. The Ishwar is that finally dissolved itself into this ultimate state. And then niyamat. Niyamat means everything is being controlled from within, not from outside. And finally, Pravesh Vakya, that when this manifestation comes into existence, then Ishwar is already entered in this reality. So this is our position. Now in quantum physics, there are difference between Newtonian science and modern science. According to Newtonian science, the first law of Newton, if a reality is स्थिर, यदि कोई वस्तु स्थिर है तो वो तब तक नहीं गतिशील होगी जब तक कोई उस पर बाह्य बल नहीं लगेगा. ये पहला नियम है. Means this creation requires external force to be run. But in quantum physics, when atom was split and so many subparticles were formed, then electron moves with the speed of 3 lakh per kilometer. And that doesn't require any external force. That is its nature. So Einstein and other big scientists refuted Newtonian position and say we do not require any external force. It is the dynamic state of reality that is controlled from within. And then scientist is quoting the concept of Antaryami from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad.
Sir, please finish.
Last statement.
Sir, please. Sir.
That the principle, the supreme principle of this universe is residing everywhere and controlling everything from within. So this is our position, where there is no difference between ultimate truth and human being, the natural things, and each and every particle of this universe. So in this context, we can move from this conditioned state to unconditioned state, and you can realize the oneness aspect of this jiva, oneness aspect of human being, and I think that will be the solution of all classes, all problems. With the slok of Adi Shankaracharya, what is the conclusion of this kind of understanding? Sampurnam Jagadev Nandan Vanam Sarvepi Kalpadruma. The whole universe will become Nandan Van. Sarvepi Kalpadruma, all trees are just like Kalpadrum. Gangam Vari Samastavari Nivaha Punya Samasta Kriya. All water becomes Gangajal. All actions are Punya. Vacha Prakrita Sanskrito Shruti Sira Varanasi Medini. All language becomes spiritual with divine. And the whole earth becomes Kashi. Kashi in the lap of Vishwanath. Sarva avasthiti rasya vastu vishaye drishte parabrahmani. This happens when you realize ultimate truth in the sense of individual. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for providing us unique information. Now we have the final speaker, Professor Saswati Muthusuddi. Professor Saswati Muthusuddi, a professor and head of the Department of Pali in the University of Kolkata. Madam, please.
15 minutes. ये नहीं चाहिए मुझे ना नॉट नेसेसरी ओके नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहत सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स अरहत सम्मा सम्बुद्ध को मैं प्रणाम करके ये शुरू करती हूँ. At first, I convey my gratitude to India Foundation and Shanchi University for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share my views. And my pranam to Professor Bhatt sir and all other dignitaries from country and abroad. This is actually the opportunity that I'm the last speaker. All deep philosophical discourses have already spoken by all other philosophers and scholars. So I will talk with actually on the who are the Eastern, who are the pathfinder of, or philosopher, rather reformer of Eastern humanism in Buddhism. Eastern, I have taken the part of our country, Eastern side, from where I am actually. And the term which actually at first, particularly Professor Mahanta and other days I have heard that the term Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and I have in mind some other quotation or rather lines from the Buddhist literature that Sabbe Satta Sukhita Antu. The very important line actually means may all beings be happy. So the quoted line we know that is very effective for new era of Eastern humanism. As we know that Swami Vivekananda defined, we have heard a lot about Swami Vivekananda's discourses in last 2 days. So I will not go with the discourses, but I will talk about Anagarika Dharmapala, who actually the pathfinder or the reformer of Buddhism in India as well as Kolkata. We know that he was the founder of Mahabodhi Society of India, and at that time also the revival Buddhism in Bengal by Kripa Sharan Mahastavir. And I will talk with the literature basically, because now the time is now too short. So literature of Rabindranath Tagore, because when we are talking about the Eastern humanism, I think it will not be ended except his philosophies in his literature. So when we are talking about the Japanese art critic Okakura, in his book Ideals of the East, he described just like Buddhism as that enormous ocean of idealism in which blend all the river systems of Eastern Asian thinking, and also describing it as a significant source of the shared identity in the past and the future. The widely read poem, we know that Edwin Arnold's The Light of Asia, being the life and teaching of Gautama, Prince of India and founder of Buddhism, as described in poetry by an Indian Buddhist, motivated not only the author but also the readers. And it is really very unfortunate that the name of propagator of Eastern humanism, particularly in Buddhism, Anagarika Dharmapala, is still in dark, and he was not in the limelight like other philosophers as well as social reformers. So the Anagarika Dharmapala, who not only clearly addressed Buddhism as the method by which cultural exchange and shared ethics had produced a regional unity in Asia and had therefore become the spiritual wellspring of an alternative civilization prepared to challenge the current world order, but who also devoted his life to the resuscitation of Buddhism in the region and beyond. The idea of Buddhism serving as a unifying force across the various Asian nations has a long pre-colonial history. Buddhist monks and scholars have long been the source of an identity that it ascends national boundaries. However, the new notion of being an Asian was not limited to the realm of religion, but also came to be associated with particular regional traditions from the Eastern cultures of Japanese intellectuals like Toten to the more philosophic Asianism of Indian thinkers like Rabindranath Tagore. And this article more focuses on how Buddhism was perceived and used as a defining characteristic of Pan-Asian identity on the Indian subcontinent, as well as how this particularly spiritual South Asian variation of Asianism within a larger critique of Western cultural and political power. By first illustrating the intellectual origins of Anagarika Dharmapala's Buddhism through his affiliation with the Theosophical Society and strong contact with intellectuals in Kolkata and then Calcutta. India's Buddhist hub, it casts doubt on the example of Anagarika Dharmapala's vision. Second, it goes into detail on how his Buddhist Asianism was institutionalized and put into practice both in the West and in East. By doing so, it is highlighted the fact that Dharmapala's modern Buddhist Asianism has other points of reference besides the West, especially since Asian Buddhist thought was not exclusively influenced by the West. Anyway, we I'm not going to the life and works elaborately, but I can quote when he was traveling a lot of various places, rather touring India, and there I quote his some points. I'm quoting, "Open your eyes and see, listen to the cries of distress of the 141 millions of people, and let their tears cool your dry hearts. Don't imagine that Providence will take care of you, for the Almighty does not calculate time by your watches. 1,000 of years in 1 hour. For him, and it is foolish for you to wait with folded hands. Wake up, my brothers, for life in this world is short. Give up your dreamy philosophies and sensualizing ceremonies. Millions are daily suffering the pangs of hunger, drinking the water that animals in the forest would not drink, sleeping and living in houses, inhaling poison day after day. There is wealth in India enough to feed all, but the admonitions of caste, creed, and sect are making the millions suffer," unquote. I'm quoting this one that I know that we are discussing here that humanism, that just to focus on the vision of humanism from Anagarika Dharmapala. And when we are talking about Anagarika Dharmapala, if we are thinking that yes, he was Ceylonese or Sri Lankan, but actually he was born in Sri Lanka, but his whole life was devoted to India, to propagate Buddhism, to good for the welfare for the society of us. So here it is for time is short, so I am not going elaborate. And now I will talk which literature I have taken here from Rabindranath Tagore. That Rabindranath Tagore actually just 5 minutes, okay? That we have seen that Rabindranath Tagore actually the most he was a follower of Buddhism. Rather, he devoted to Buddhism. So he write his literature, lots of literature. We have seen that from Avadana and Bodhisattva Avadana, Kalpalata, and all this Sanskrit Buddhist literature particularly. So here I have just taken the when we are talking about the humanism, it is actually, we can't avoid the talk when he was translating that Brahma Viharo means we know that Karuna, Mudita and Upekha. So we know all that Karuna, Mudita and Upekha who actually follow the philosophy of Karuna, Mudita and Upekha. It is quite natural that he's writing Chandalika. We can find the thing, means find the affection, find the social picture where he is totally arguing about the caste system. And in the wise words, so Rabindranath Tagore, what he is talking, that Brahma Viharas enable the transition from egolessness to a universalization of consciousness, from limited to unlimited love. The Buddha, describing the state of Brahma Vihara as unlimited love, says to live in such a consciousness while standing or walking, sitting or lying down till you are asleep is Brahma Viharo, or having your joy in the spirit of Brahma Loko. So his Chandalika was just starting with like this, Chuyana Chuyana Chi, Ami Chandalikar Chi. It means that please don't touch me. I am the daughter of Chandalika, who is untouchable of the society. So, and then, Je amare diyeche ডাক, জলো দাও, তিনি বললেন শ্রাবণের কালো মেঘকে চণ্ডাল নাম দিলেই বা কি, তাতে তার জাত বদলায় না, তার জলের ঘোচে না গুণ। তিনি বললেন নিন্দে করো না নিজেকে, আত্মনিন্দা পাপ, আত্মহত্যার চেয়ে বেশি। Means who has given me call, give me water. He told me, what's in the name of Chandal? If it is given to the cloud of the month of monsoon, there is nothing change in caste and not in the quality of water. He also told me that it becomes evil to insult myself than suicide. At that time the bell was rang in the royal house. Prakriti did bath the orphan calf by the water of well. Then one Buddhist monk, Ananda, with yellow robe, stand in front of her and ask for water. Hearing the sound, she told him that, I am the daughter of Chandal. The well water is so nasty. But he told her that, I am the same human being as he is. Every water is pious as it is satisfied the thirsty people. As I heard these words for the first time, I gave only handful water to him, and then shocked my heart when I had taken his leg dust. After that, she always listened the sound to give me water. It can be understood that humanism may be Eastern or Western. Poet was just overwhelmed by the deep philosophy of Buddha. He absorbed in his mind the humanism of humanity, rather qualities of Metta, Karuna, Mudita. Rabindranath Tagore was understood the human religion of Buddhism, so pointed out such type of sensational and emotional social problems. The same words are echoed in the Brahmana Bhaggo, where we can see
Madam, 5 minutes is over.
Yes, little bit. No jotahi no gotteno no jaccha hoti brahmano. Nobody becomes Brahman by birth. He sketched beautiful scene of nature as well as human character at the very time. Actually, the caste of Chandalas were untouchable in that society. So here is, we are talking about the caste, and the other side we have seen that where Rajdharma, talking about the Rajdharma in Malini drama, the first drama of Rabindranath Tagore, and the end of the drama we have seen that where Malini uttered that Khomo Khemong Kore, that is the very, I can't express now the whole thing. Actually, if possible, then you can go through the drama Malini. So that is the important portions where I want to share with you that the humanism of Buddhism, what was actually followed by Rabindranath Tagore, and we have just, what can I say, we are just gathered from his literature. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Madam. Ambedji, please release our cabinet, Honorable Cabinet Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia message.
It gives me great pleasure to attend the Dharma Dhamma confluence between Hinduism and Buddhism conference in Bhopal today. The fact is that there is no democracy in the world but one where divisions blend into diversity, where plurality is not a liability but a badge of pride. There is no country but one that worships its land as mother indeed. There is none like Bharat Mata. Bharat's democracy is just not a political system, but it is also the fundamental basis of diversity and concord. We coexist, we share, we adapt. And that's why so many religions, faiths and identities have flourished in India's cradle. Buddhism too is no exception. While India is where Lord Buddha attained Nirvana at Bodh Gaya in Bihar, it is also the place where many new layers and shades have been added to the shape and meaning of Buddhism. For example, not many know of the fact that Tibetan Buddhism, its deities and mandalas were all developed in the Indian University of Nalanda. In fact, the first person to establish the framework of Buddhism and the monastic community in Tibet was actually a guru from the Nalanda University called Acharya Shantarakshitra. So therefore, when we talk of India and Buddhism, it is much greater than the confluence, as the theme of the session suggests, or about the commonalities between Hinduism and Buddhism. It is so much more. I see them as two sides of the same coin, or like one soul, but different bodies. Yes, India's soul is as much Hindu as it is Buddhist, and let me explain why. Buddhism is the faith of peace, of compassion, of humanism. These three values are also deeply embedded into Indian spiritualism. Beyond a point, these values even transcended spiritualism and shaped our democratic system as well. It is said that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's conception of democracy and his later contribution to the Indian Constitution was inspired by Navayana Buddhism, which promotes liberty, equality, and fraternity. Another example is our national emblem, which is taken from the Ashoka pillar. In fact, Hinduism and Buddhism have the same religious foundations too, like the laws of karma, dharma, and moksha, and the cycle of rebirth. What I mean to say is that the spirit and spiritualism of India is truly a harmony of faiths, not a confluence but a blending of religions, and there's more common ground than differences among them. In the northern Himachal Pradesh belt, Hindus and Buddhists freely worship in each other's temples and consult each other's priests. The sacred Mount Kailash, for Buddhists and Hindus both, it is the home of their gods. Triloknath, sacred to both Buddhists as well as Hindus. The Hindus revere Lord Shiva's idol, whereas for the Buddhists it is the idol of Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion. But it is also important to take note of the fact that coexistence of these faiths is not a product solely of natural forces or historical ties. This needs constant nurturing, constant momentum. Coexistence of our religious faiths is nearly impossible without the constant endeavor of our custodians, of our political system, our democracy. This nuanced understanding of Indian society and spirit was in a state of decline for the last 60-odd years. Cultural symbols were reduced to merely that, just symbols. Religious institutions remain in a state of despair, crying for renovation. Political opportunism took over. The need of the hour, therefore, was to bring the different pieces of our cultural fabric together. And that's something that our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, understood from the get-go. It is the result of his Vichardhara that a new cultural revolution, or rather cultural awakening, has set foot in the country. Taking Buddhism as a case in point, I believe this faith is thriving not just in India but all across the world now, thanks to the far-sighted measures that this government has instituted to take Lord Buddha's message to the world and promote and expand the religion and its beliefs. We are hosting global Buddhist conferences promoting Buddhist literature. We have taken the path of Vasudevaya Kutumbakam, which echoes Lord Buddha's sermon, or Bhavatu Sabha Mangalam. The world is looking up to India to drive consensus, to drive unity. It is India that has shown the world the unique capability to attract others to its own side without the use of coercion. A major driver of this global image has been the far-reaching influence of Buddhism in our current foreign diplomacy as well. It is now that we see a strengthening of India's soft power through her spiritual outreach. Given that over 97% of the world's Buddhist population lives in the Asian subcontinent, we have been able to strengthen ties with our counterparts in Southeast and East Asia through Buddhism. In fact, it has been the basis of our Act East policy as well. Today, when India wants to position herself as the Vishwa Guru, it is the ideals of Buddhism that could show the way in resolving the challenges of global conflict and disorder. In order to do that well, it is important that India strengthens the thread that connects herself to foreign Buddhists from across the world. And that thread is connectivity. Though India is currently home to 7 of the 8 most significant Buddhist sites in the world, it used to receive less than 1% of global Buddhist tourism. To remedy this, a Buddhist tourist circuit covering Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Orissa is already in the works. In 2021, the Prime Minister inaugurated the Kushinagar International Airport, which was marked by an inaugural flight from Sri Lanka, carrying a Sri Lankan delegation over 100 Buddhist monks and other dignitaries. We have earmarked at least 16 Buddhist circuit routes under our flagship Udan scheme, out of which 2 routes, Delhi to Kushinagar, are already under operation. The others are likely to commence in this year's summer schedule. It is my imperative that India becomes a global hub for Buddhist tourism, and we are steadily marching towards that goal. Before concluding, I'd like to leave you all with a question. It's a larger question that we need to answer as a people, and I hope it'll also add a spark to the upcoming academic deliberations in this conference. And that question is, why Dharma is essential for democracy. Thank you very much. Jai Hind. It gives me
respected keynote speaker presented today last plenary session, Professor Chitrapad Prabandha Vidyaji, Professor Batre Kitinov, Professor Saswati Muthusuddi, Professor Dilip K. Mohanta, Professor Goda Barish Misra ji, Professor Ramnath Jha ji, and eminent scholar of Sanchi University and India Foundation, respected Vice Chancellor Madam Professor Nirja Arun Gupta ji, Professor K. Gopinath ji, Professor S.R. Bhatt ji, Professor Giriswar ji, Giriswar Misra ji, Maharshi Katyayan ji, Professor R.C. Sinha, Dr. Jageshwar ji, Dr. Vansal ji, and all eminent scholars presented here. The conference can be concluded in this way. We have discussed humanity at a length. This is the time for Eastern thoughts. We have shown the humanity of Vedic philosophy and Eastern philosophy to whole world, which has been going on since centuries ago, which is our world famous heritage. When we talk about humanity, we become narrow because we talk about oneness in living beings. The theistic theory, it was conceived indirectly around 1500 before Christ, at the time of Vedas and Upanishads in East. The prayer begins with Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pasyantu, Ma Kasyid Dukh Bhag Bhavet, means that let all be happy here and let all enjoy full health. Ved Richas echoed this universal welfare. The earthly life constitutes that central concern for the Vedic Aryans. The entire creation, living and non-living, is a part of our family. Like our family, Vasudhaiva, we can say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. From our Vedic philosophy, Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay presented the concept of integral humanism. What is more humanity than oneness? Our Indian and Eastern scriptures are repleted with various quotes on humanity. Ahimsa, like ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-violence. The universal love is good example. Indian lifestyle described ahimsa to be the law of life. East identified ahimsa with universal love to him. All well-constructed societies are based on the law of non-violence, that the families are bound together by ties of love. All of your attendance at 7th Dharma Dhamma International Conference in Sanchi University, thank you very much and good wishes for Holy Festival. Thank you.
भारतीय सनातन संस्कृति एवं परंपरा के अनुसार इस सत्र के हमारे अध्यक्ष एवं सभी माननीय वक्तागणों का सम्मान करना चाहेंगे। इसी श्रृंखला में मैं आदरणीय सत्र के अध्यक्ष डॉक्टर अल्केश चतुर्वेदी, रजिस्ट्रार सांची विश्वविद्यालय के सम्मान हेतु श्री हरीश चंद्रवंशी को मंच पर आमंत्रित करती हूँ। आदरणीय प्रोफेसर श्री गोदावरीश मिश्रा जी के सम्मान हेतु मैं डॉक्टर अमित ताम्रकार जी को मंच पर आमंत्रित करती हूँ। आदरणीय प्रोफेसर दिलीप के मोहंता जी के सम्मान हेतु डॉक्टर नवीन दीक्षित जी को मंच पर आमंत्रित करती हूँ। आदरणीय प्रोफेसर श्री रामनाथ झा जी के सम्मान हेतु श्री यश नामदेव जी को मंच पर आमंत्रित करती हूँ। आदरणीय प्रोफेसर शाश्वती मुत्सुद्दी जी के सम्मान हेतु मैं श्रीमती गाथा त्रिवेदी जी को मंच पर आमंत्रित करती हूँ। आप सभी से विनम्र अनुरोध है, राष्ट्रगान हेतु अपने स्थान पर खड़े हो गए। जनगण मन अधिनायक
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा। विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा। तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे। गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
सभी आदरणीय जनों को लंच हेतु बाहर आमंत्रित कर रहे हैं।